Welcome to Trending Upward, and this is Chad Hayes. I want to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Trending Upward, and I trust that the podcast today will be a help to you. It is my desire that the Word of God be used in such a way on this platform that it would be a help to you as you seek to trend upward. It is important that this life that we live be an ascending Christian life and not a descending Christian life. I trust it to be a help to you as you listen today. We're going to be looking today at Exodus chapter 4, verses 10 through 12. And Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant. But I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And the Lord said unto him, Who hath made man's mouth? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. The Lord had a message for Moses. Moses knew that he wasn't eloquent. Moses basically says, I wasn't eloquent back then, and I'm not eloquent now. Nothing has changed. Couldn't talk well then, can't talk well now. And maybe Moses was backwoods, I don't know. Maybe he was a wilderness man. I can't help but think that an eloquent man would have a harder time in the wilderness with the children of Israel than a man who was somewhat already accustomed to the wilderness. Now, this is important to note that not every individual would do well and thrive in every environment. Moses wouldn't have thrived in the big city, but he thrived in the wilderness. But there was a preparation of time for Moses in the wilderness to be ready for the wilderness. Moses was at least to some degree of the mind that what God had for him would be for someone with a degree of eloquence. On the surface, I would agree that Egypt wasn't wilderness. Egypt was wealthy. Pharaoh was wealthy. Pharaoh's palace was a big to-do. Moses felt inferior. He felt beneath the calling, beneath the job that God had for him, which, by the way, in many ways is a good feeling to have. We just cannot allow that feeling to dominate us and ultimately cause us to resist God's will for our lives. I worry about people who from the get-go have the mindset of, hey, y'all, watch me. Because again, God makes the unworthy worthy. One of my favorite quotes from D.L. Moody is this: Moses spent 40 years thinking he was somebody, 40 years learning he was nobody, in 40 years discovering what God can do with the nobody. And I tell you today, if you think you are something special and you're doing God some big favor for whatever it is that you do, you have the wrong idea entirely. And you've not even begun to be used of God, because God resists the proud. It is the goal of God to sing through you, to preach through you, to teach through you, to live His life through you, but He can't so long as we think we've got this. We have got to kick "we got this" to the curb and go ahead and admit that we don't got this. We are serving the one who has it. You know, Moses tried to resist God's call because of his perceived limitations, but God reminded him of His power to equip the called. So I trust today that whatever it is that the Lord has for you to do, and the Lord has something for everyone, something for them to do, I trust that you are serving Christ with humility in mind, knowing that you need Him, knowing that you cannot do your service without Him. And by the way, we should all set out and we should all strive for that purpose, that we're going to do all things through Christ. Because we didn't call ourselves, God called us. Now, if God called us, then we should do what He expects. We should lead the way He would have us lead. We should serve the way He would have us serve. It's the same way if you get hired for a job. You have an employer. They hired you for a reason. There's something that they expect out of you. You do what is expected out of you. And you see, God has called us to serve Him. And we serve Him with humility in mind. We serve Him with surrender in mind. Lord, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. Whatever you want me to say, I'll say it. What do you want me to sing? What do you want me to teach? Where do you want me to go? How do you want me to live my life? It truly is a life of service to Christ. Sometimes we lose sight of the fact. We start thinking that we're serving people before Christ. No, we serve Christ first, and then Christ sends us to people. Our first service is to Christ. Our first allegiance is to Christ. And then from there, Christ sends us out to people, to minister to people. But first, He must minister to us. Everything, I keep saying this often, God is always previous. God should be before everything. Before everything, there's God. Before our service, there's God. Before our service, it should always begin with God. Before we get up into the pulpit to preach, it begins with God. Before we get up to teach, it begins with God. Before we get up to sing, it begins with God. Before we do anything for God, it should begin with God. As God should always be previous in our hearts and lives and in our ministries and how we serve Him. If we go without God, we don't have His blessing. I'm a pastor. I've been pastoring for years now. If I get up into the pulpit without God, I don't have His blessing. We have those who sing in our church. If they get up without God, they don't have His blessing. We have those in our church who teach. If they get up to teach without God, they don't have His blessing. For whatever your service may be, whatever it is that you're doing for the Lord, be reminded that it must begin with Him. If you're going to have His blessing, if it's going to have the impact that it's going to need to have, we have got to begin with God. We've got to allow God to be previous to everything that we do. We just mentioned last Sunday in Sunday morning's message how the disciples spent time at Jesus' feet before they went out to minister. They didn't stay at Jesus' feet, but they had times at Jesus' feet which prepared them for their ministry, which prepared them for their service. They went to Jesus to get the power for what they needed to do. It wasn't their power, it was the power of God through them. We oftentimes lack God's power, and we don't see the rewards, and we don't see the fruits of ministry because we do things without God. We've not allowed God to be previous. We don't spend time at Jesus' feet. We just get up and teach. We just get up and preach. We just get up and sing. We just write books, but God was not previous in it. May we get aside and put aside this mentality that we can sing without God, that we can teach without God, that we can preach without God, because no, we cannot. We cannot and be effective. If we're going to be effective, we must begin with God. I'd like to thank you for listening today to Trending Upward. If it's been a help to you, I invite you to share this podcast with someone and help get the word out on how they too can trend upward in their walk with God.